So the next topic which we are going to discuss is called the template syntax. So I hope most of you who have already started with Vue, or like you already know what is the template syntax we usually have. I will try not to uh, very dive into that, else it will be a separate uh, course itself of VueJS in a nutshell. But I'm making, as I said, I will be making this. I hope for like in as assuming that you already know Vue, and I'm only just taking the points which I really think is something new to me, which I've learned, and is something new to you also. So I will be trying to cope up with all the things side by side. So view store. So in template syntax, we all know how the VF, VElse, and VElse if works, but the story of V4 and VIF, there is a story, and the story is very simple. That VF runs first as compared to V4. So VF has the highest precedence as compared to V4. For just remember that for the situation like below. So let's say you have this, and usually even I have encountered this, you might have also encountered this, is that you directly render the users like VIF and V4 together. And what this causes is, it causes a issue is that whenever the user is active is false, that time this causes the interruption of the iteration which is going on in V4. So and it eventually it throws error, so that is not actually the good case. So what is the good case in that? So first use case which actually is less causing issue, and but is less what user will be using it, is that you can directly filter the users, and you can just directly insert it here, and it will give you the user ID. But in the case of here, but this case is only feasible like when you want to just filter it and you just want to directly put it here. But let's say you want to show something else for like you want to render something for the uh, like whenever the active user is false, you want to render something, in that case this fails. So in that scenario we can have this. So let's say we first run the v4 in the template, and then only once it's iterating, it renders the v if here. And here you can also write the v if what I say else here. So this will not cause any issue even if the user is active is false also. So that's not an issue, it will still continue rendering on that particular, like it will still go through that uh, depth level, and it will not cause any issue. So another thing which I want to talk about is the styling part. So for the styling part, so for the styling part I went through this. So there is a style guide. I will try to take this as fast as possible. So here the most important rule, that is the essential one which they are talking about, and essential ones are those which can cause issues like errors, and strongly recommended are those which improve the readability, but the code will still run, and same goes with others. So I will try to cover the essentials in a nutshell. So essentials, what it says is, in essentials, if we talk about the styling perspective, the scope styling, so whenever like you use the component like styling, right, for the component, you should always give the style, and here you have to mark it scoped. So that is actually very important. And the other thing is that whenever you give what I say the classes, or you create classes, always create with the component name. So C can be any component name, and yeah, so it can avoid mismatching with the third party's name. Let's say any like dot button is a very common class which most of the third parties library they do have, so we don't want to merge with them, so we give components, so just it is unique. And another thing is prefer class selector over element selector. So what it says is, like, whenever you use your class selector, okay, so like this one, so what view does is, in by default it automatically creates a hash id suffix to the button. So how I can show you is this, let's go to one of the example itself. So guys, I I read all this article and try to give you summarize as much as possible, so just to make the video short. So if I see here, so essential, if I go down, and if I can show you, Yeah, this was the scope which I was talking about, but I wanted to talk about the styling of this large number selector, right? So here if you see, it might be there some use with caution, it will be here, yeah. So this is where it shows. So whenever you might have seen in the template rendering, right, it shows this, and it gives us some IDs by default. Now the problem here is, if you directly define a button and you give a background with this, the problem is it has to, check, go through all the buttons, and it have to look into this. The better will be to make it fast is to directly give the class name, so it will just directly look for that class, and inside that it will go through this. So this class selector should be the preferred way in all of this. Now now in coming with v4, so usually most of us already know that in v4 we have the v4 in, but if you don't know, we have the off variant also. So what I will do is I will go to my sfc here. So just to show you that when we use in, we have this something called index, and whenever your items is, let's say, an object, that times this in comes very handy. So you can get the key of it. The key is, let's say, title, then the item of it, and then the index. But let's say when you have an object, it will still work, but it will not give you the index even if you try to make it off also. So the thing what I want to say here is, in is actually helpful for the objects which you use to get the, the properties of it. So for, in a nutshell, we use in for, like, to in an array, sorry, off in an array where you just want to get the index, and in you can use, like, you can use it for what I say, array, and also the mostly it's preferred for the object. So yeah, that keep that in mind. I usually use in for both arrays and object, it doesn't matter. The second property is always the index or the key. So yeah, but in case of object, the second property is the key, and the third property is only the index. Remember that second property is index in case of array, and second property is key in case of an object. That is what we have to remember, and the third property is the index in case of object. Simple. Now, in binding of html, now if you might know, um, since most of the points I knew already, but I just wanted to talk about it. So I will go to the class and binding. So the thing here is, whenever, like, let's talk about how this classes works. So whenever you define the class, you can give a bool property here, and then only this class will show up, and it will render active. The class is equals to active. So just let's see this example. So we have given is active is equals to true. So then only if we see the result, active is showing up here. But if the has error is false, so it's not showing. So this is how you can give the, what I say, the class in the, you can give the, what I say, HTML classes in an object way. But the similar way we can have it in arrays also, which I will be coming to down below. But here what I got to understand is that whenever you use the, what I say, this objects, right, now think of it, instead of giving directly putting values one by one, just imagine if we directly give this whole object. So how we will use that, we can use the directly, what I say, computed properties. I think that might be coming here, yeah. And we can just directly define what is false, what is true, and it will automatically render. So that's something which we can do. Now in case of array also, in array has one of the good option thing is that you can provide a list of classes which you want to render. But now the thing, another catch here is that it also provides you an option to, like, conditional render also. So by default array has a conditional rendering like this. So is active, if is active is false, it will not allow the class. And this error class, whenever it shows like this, right, so here the our conditional rendering is done, then only the error class, but error class will render all the time. Even if this is true or false, it doesn't matter, it will remove, or like it will always show up. Okay, so that's why we have this error class. Now the next thing is combining this, what I say, the one which we saw, the conditionaling with array and the conditionaling with objects in a nutshell. So how we can do it, I will just take you that into a good example here. uh, so let's no, I think I have not taken that here. I will just show you. So the best way to use, even I got to know that today itself, so the best way to use is this one. So the one which you see, right? So this is the best way to use, or what I got to understand, the conditional rendering. So here what it says is, let's say we have a class, we want to have some external class also to render all the time, we can have it here. And let's say we want to have some conditional classes, so that we are handling in this objects also. And these objects, as I said, we can send it by computed properties directly inside it. But so there are a lot of cases where, like, how we can render the components. So this was about it. Now let's say, in a let's say we have some, the last topic, that is you can pro okay. So in styling properties, main thing here is you should always use the camel case when you define the class. So let's say flex, or flex or display or like any classes, it should have a camel case. So what I do, I go to the inline styles. So as you can see, font size, see, so it should always be camel case. This is the catch. And the next thing what it says is, let's say if you want to have multiple classes to be, multiple styles to be affecting the same property. So let's say if I show you some, like if I try to do an inspect, I think multiple classes of display might have it, right? Well, if it is not showing, no worries. uh, what we can do is, like, we can directly apply the class inside the array, and yeah, that's it. So that's it for in the template syntax. Let's see in the next session. Thank you, guys.